Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And ladies and gentlemen, I implore you to stop everything you're doing and share this out. I have the one and only Mr. Jim Keys on the show this morning. And Jim is the former CEO of Blockbuster Video and 7-Eleven. And he's done so many other amazing things. You guys are going to be blown away by this man. He is incredible. So please share this out and let's get as many people on here as we possibly can. Join me here in just a second with the one and only Mr. Jim Keys. All right, we're back. Let me bring Jim on. Jim, welcome to the show.
Ken, it's great to be with you.
Honestly, I wish I was with you right now. Holy crap. I just got to say this and then we'll get into it. Jim landed his jet today with the one and only Charlie Duke, astronaut that walked on the moon. Charlie Duke was with Jim in his jet. They landed on the runway at NASA.
Yeah, with a 17 knot tailwind for the pilots out there. And it's like, they brought me in, they vectored me in. I said, could I get runway 33? No, you're on 17. And they did it on purpose because they wanted me to be able to pull up to the shuttle. They've got an old shuttle sitting there on the runway. But I've never landed with a 17 knot tailwind, although I had 15,000 feet of runway. So I think I had plenty of room.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. How many feet?
15,000.
15.
Oh yeah. And it's wide enough. It's 300 feet wide. I have a little husky, a bush plane. I could land it sideways on the runway.
Oh my God.
Now, today I had the jet, but still I didn't use anywhere near the whole runway, even with a tailwind.
Yeah, right. So but you've done it before, right?
I have. I've been fortunate enough to come in here before. It's kind of an advantage of hanging out with astronauts. I call up and they don't let normally they won't let a pilot just call up and land on the shuttle strip. But I call them up. I said, hey, I've got General Duke coming in. We're going to be landing to do the 0G flight here tomorrow. Do you mind if we get clearance for the strip? And they're like, oh, for General Duke, anything.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
That's just wow. Yeah. Next time, can I go?
Sure. Come on.
I mean, do you have room on that plane? So Jim, I am honored, and you and I have kind of gotten to know each other over the last couple of months. And man, you are you're just an incredible human being. The things that you do currently and that you've done in the past are just mind-blowing. So let's get into that. Let's talk about where it all began for you. Where were you born and raised?
Yeah, well, you're right, Ken. I do live a blessed life, though. I mean, today, honestly, I wake up this morning, I'm thinking, what a day. I'm going to fly into Orlando with an Apollo astronaut. I'm gonna watch today. Another friend, Cam Gaffarian, runs Intuitive Machines. That's the spacecraft that's landing on the moon this afternoon. So I will get to watch that here at NASA with Charlie Duke. We haven't landed since 1967 or 1971, I guess it was the last time we were that the U.S. has landed on the moon. I'll be with Charlie this afternoon. Then tomorrow we're going to go on the 0G craft, and he's helping me promote my book. So we're going to do a little flyby, and we're going to talk about my book being out of this world. To your question, I pinch myself. I say, honestly, I do say a prayer of thanks because of the life I live, because I literally grew up in a small 3-room shack in Massachusetts without running water.
What?
Or heat. Yeah. Most people don't know that. I've been telling this story now in the context of the book because literally, I grew up in circumstances where no one would have expected that I would go to school, go to college. It was so far out of my grasp financially, or just even socially out of touch, because I had no idea what it even meant to go to college.
Wow.
But yet I was able to get through school. I was ultimately able to run 2 Fortune 500 companies. I'm able to do virtually anything today that I want to do because I've learned basically that if I learn it, I can do it. Whether it's fly an airplane, run a company, I could go be a concert musician if I want. It's just a matter of time.
I think about you, I know you have, I don't know how many planes you have, but I know you have more than one.
Couple.
Yeah. So, but like a lot of people would ask, why don't you just hire pilots?
That is such a good question. And it's such a good setup because the answer isn't in my book. The answer isn't education is wealth, because wealth gives you the opportunity to buy a fancy plane and sit in the back and sip, a Mai Tai while somebody else is flying, right?
Right.
But Ken, I have so much more freedom than the guy sitting in the back because I don't even need a co-pilot in the aircraft that I fly. And yet I can go literally anywhere in the world. All I have to do is file a flight plan on my phone, go to my airplane, jump in it, and in 15 minutes, I can be in the air to virtually any destination worldwide. And that, versus having to have a crew, have a co-pilot, arrange the, timing and all this kind of stuff. I have the ultimate freedom.
Right.
To me, that's so much more important than just wealth. Wealth's wonderful. The freedom is what it's really all about.
You're like, hey, I got to leave in 15 minutes. And the pilots are like, I haven't had a shower yet.
Oh yeah. Or geez, I just had a drink,
Right. Even worse. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's what a great answer. I actually, I would have not thought of that answer. So that's impressive. So,
Well, but Ken, it's an example. It's just one example of so many that, we get on this hamster trail and we think it's about money because it feels like it's about money. The more money I have, the more I can do. Yes, but the more knowledge you have, really, the more you can do. Knowledge is so much more powerful than money alone. And yes, knowledge can lead to money, but it's really the freedom that comes from what you know more than what you have that really makes all the difference in the world.
Totally agree with that, man. Totally agree with that. So go back to you. You grow up in you said a 3-room or 3-bedroom?
3-room. Yeah. Little shack. My dad built it.
Serious?
My dad and my grandfather built a house. They intended to build a bigger house. We had a cellar actually dug out. They intended to put in plumbing, couldn't afford it, didn't get around to it. So we had literally had a pump outside. My grandmother's house was on the same piece of land down the street a bit. And then our house, which was basically a living room, a small living room, a small bedroom, and a small kitchen area. And that was it. I think the whole thing, I'm guessing maybe 1,500 square feet. And that throws 6 kids in that, and a mom and a dad. And
6 kids?
3 brothers, 2 sisters. Yeah, there were 6 of us. It was a little crazy.
So, okay, that's unbelievable to me. So you go through school, you graduate high school, and then like every other wealthy kid in America, I'm kidding. But your mom and dad paid for your college?
Oh yeah, I grew silver spoon. They lived in a shack, but they did everything for me. No. No,
Silver spoon.
no, it was quite the opposite. I had a, it wasn't silver. I think our cutlery maybe came from the grocery store or something. I used to have a thing. I know my encyclopedias did. I think that the silverware came with a bag of groceries. You get a fork, knife, and a spoon or
Oh
something.
my God.
Our
Wow.
cups and our plates came from there. But anyway,
Jeez.
yeah, but look, it was even worse than it sounds on the surface. My mom had enough of that. We literally had an outhouse, and you want to hear a fun story? My brother still reminds me today. I had a little tricycle and I was riding it in this little cramped space. Well, we had an indoor facility because it was an outhouse, but in the wintertime in Massachusetts, that got a little rough walking, a couple hundred yards to the outhouse. So we had an indoor thing. Well, apparently I hit it one day with my tricycle and I knocked it all over the floor. And my brother had to clean it up before a date. He wasn't very happy about that. But to make a long story short, my mom ended up leaving, and she had enough of that lifestyle. I was 5 years old. She's like, I'm out. She went to upscale to the trailer park.
Oh my God.
Seriously. Hey, they had running water there. And
there are levels to this trailer park, right?
Oh yeah, no, hey, it was fancy. It was a single wide though. She couldn't afford a double wide, but it was yeah. And it was to their credit, my parents gave me the choice. And 5 years old, they said, "Where do you want to go, with mom or dad?" And I was like, the trailer park. I think I'll stay here. And so, because we had a big yard and we lived out in the country. So anyway, I stayed with my dad, and it turned out to be a blessing because we don't know what the future holds, but a little boy and his father are pretty important. It's a pretty important bond. My dad took me camping. We went fishing all the time. I had a real privilege growing up with a kind of a one-to-one relationship. My brothers and sisters were much older, so they were, either one brother ran away from home, another, off to the military, and another off to work and got married. So I had a very exclusive period of time with my dad, and then he passed. So had I not made that choice, I would have missed a window of opportunity to grow up with an amazing father, who really taught me so much, even though he didn't know how to succeed. He worked in a factory. He worked really, really hard. But he knew he didn't want that life for me. And he encouraged me to study. He didn't know how, but he knew the answer was in books and in knowledge. And he used to say, look, that's one thing they can't take from you. They can take your house. They can take your car. They take your money, but they'll never be able to take your knowledge. So get as much as you can. And it's free.
That, wow. And you probably, I'm going to go out on a limb here. At 5 years old, I'm thinking you didn't realize you were poor.
Oh, not a clue. No, I thought I was rich. I thought I was rich because the kids in the rich part of town,
right?
There's a little town called Grafton, Mass, and the south side of town was where kind of, people that didn't have quite so much money. The north side of town is where all the people that owned the factories and all that stuff. They lived on the other side of town. Yeah. And so maybe I have it backwards, North Street and South Street. But anyway, the kids on the good side of the fancy side of town wanted to come and play in my yard because we had junk cars, because my dad would strip cars and take the spare cast iron and parts and take them to the junkyard and sell them for scrap metal in his spare time to make some extra cash, during weekends. So we had all these junkyard cars in the yard. It was like a little mini junkyard. Well, my buddies used to love to come over because we'd sit in the cars and, man, a kid has a great imagination. Yeah. We'd be like turning them into airplanes, and we'd be formation flying in 2 junk cars. We had a blast. Even though they had all the fancy toys, we had more fun. And you know what it was, Ken? I had freedom. I was like unsupervised. There was nobody there to watch me. My dad was working. Yeah. I had an elderly grandmother around, down the street. That's about it. So I was very much on my own. Well, these kids were under the microscope. They couldn't do anything. They
Yeah.
come to my place. We were like, woohoo, you know,
Right.
we got to
I
run
love
and
it.
play and jump and do things that their parents would have had a heart attack if they ever saw us, you know, the things we did, but we survived it somehow.
Wow.
But it
I
was freedom.
absolutely
It was
love that.
freedom.
Freedom. Yep.
So I thought I was rich.
Yeah. Wow. And they probably did too.
Yeah, they probably did. You know, we didn't. Yeah, it's the beauty of children. They don't discriminate. They don't think you're
Right.
rich, I'm not, or
Right.
anything like that. And
Right.
we just all had friends, and ironically, I'm still friends. That's the beauty of Facebook. I've reacquainted with some of my old friends from the time I was growing up, and it's just such a joy, you know, to see where they are now, and it's
Wow.
so fun.
So okay, so you go to college. Where did you go to college? And how did you get there? Did you figure out how to get your own loans or scholarships, or how did that happen?
I worked hard, really hard. At 16, I was able to get my first job at McDonald's. And somehow, I think it was I needed the job so bad, and I knew I wanted to save money for college, so I worked my butt off. I was like the fastest guy on the grill flipping burgers, and you know, they'd ask me to clean the lot, and I'd run to do it. You know, everybody else thought I was a little weird, but I wanted to work and I needed it, and so they promoted me. They made me a shift manager. You know, bumped my salary from $1.50 to maybe $1.80 an hour.
Yeah.
But it was a formidable task. Then I would also drive trucks. I had a brother who was a truck driver, taught me to drive a semi. And so, you know, if I'm out there as soon as I could get, they trust me with a commercial truck. I was driving a produce truck, loading it at 4 a.m., making 2 runs a day, then come back, sleep a couple hours, and try to study, you know, to be able to go to school. So I made enough to at least pay for the first year of tuition. Now, I also saved money by going to a college that was relatively close to my home. I chose College of Lily Cross, so I could just spent my money on tuition rather than room and board, because I knew I couldn't afford that. Now, in hindsight, I was an idiot, because seriously, and this is the situation so many kids are in today. They just don't know any better. They don't have anybody to tell them, hey, by the way, the better the school, the bigger the endowment, the greater chance you're going to get a scholarship, because they need kids like you, you know? And so I'm telling that now. I put that message in my book to young people, that don't be intimidated by these massive, you know, costs of college that would appear to be unreachable. Because, for example, I sit on the board at Holy Cross. The average college, not average college, many of the nicer schools have 40 to 50% what they call discount rates. In other words, they're trying, they have big endowments, and they're trying to encourage people from diverse backgrounds, from underprivileged backgrounds especially, to come in, because it's good for the student body to have a good mixture of different kinds of people. So there's more money than anyone would ever know, especially those kids that need it the most. They don't have any idea that it's there.
Wow. Wow. And that's partially what your life goal is to get that message out. I know that from the conversations we've had. So Jim, you went and you were living in the 3-room shack going to college?
No, I mentioned my dad. My dad had been sick, and the town nurse used to come down and take care of him, because he was, you know, pretty serious at the time. He had cancer. Cancer treatments back then were very rudimentary and rough, and so he was having a bit of a hard time. A nurse came down. Well, apparently she reported us, because the way we were living, because the conditions really weren't acceptable for her to be able to care for him. So I came home from school one day, literally, and saw a red sign on the door. I didn't know what the word condemned meant. I literally had to go look it up.
Oh my God.
And then I was like, well, now what? They've just closed our house, and where are we going to go? they sent my dad to a VA hospital. I had the choice of either going to live with my mom in the trailer park or with a brother. So I went to live with a brother for a while.
Wow.
And yeah, God bless him, he took me in. I was able to hang with him, the truck driver, hang with him for a while, and ultimately ended up back with my mom for my high school years. And so again, it sounds like, oh, poor boy, grew up poor, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know I was poor. Poor kid, lost his dad. Yeah, but I had the privilege of 6 exclusive years with him. Poor kid, I had to live with his mom. Well, but she moved out of the trailer park and things were okay during high school. And she was super helpful during high school to me. So, it's not all that bad, even though it sounds horrible. The adversity that I dealt with at a young age every one of those things ended up being an opportunity.
I'm seeing an overarching message here or theme in your life, and that is it sounds like you are a master at reframing any situation and finding something to be grateful about.
Well, thank you for seeing that, because I'm human. When bad things happen to me, I recoil and I think, why me? How come I have to? I'm human. We all are.
Right.
But I have had so many examples of times that I've said that, and I look back on it, I say, wow, what a blessing that ended up being.
Yeah.
It turned into an opportunity. So I often say that adversity is strength, because it made me stronger. It made me better. And usually, if I can stay the course and see it through, something good was on the other side. I just didn't know it at the time. And so keep your head up, right? I've even coined an expression I've been using a lot. I put it in the book. Change equals opportunity. It's really ironically the acronym CEO. And if I look back at my history, both 7-Eleven and Blockbuster went through a restructuring. 7-Eleven did in 1991. I thought my career was over. Great opportunity. I would not have the privilege of being CEO of 7-Eleven had the company not had a crisis and gone through a bankruptcy. It turned into a personal opportunity, and it helped the company reinvent itself in a way it probably wouldn't have done otherwise.
So let's fast forward a little bit. And Josh asked where you're from. He missed that part. Massachusetts.
Grafton and Millbury.
Yeah.
High school in Millbury, undergrad, or grammar school in Grafton, high school in Millbury.
So so you got your undergrad degree.
Yes.
Did you go on and get any more degrees?
I did. I was planning to, when you're a kid growing up like that, you have no frame of reference. I didn't know what business was. I thought, literally, it's embarrassing to admit, but my definition of business school was typing class that the girls went to. Because they called that business class, right? I was like, business? I don't know. I already know how to type. I don't need to go to business school and learn how to type.
Right.
I was clueless, absolutely clueless. Wow. So I wanted to be a lawyer, I thought, because, that's pretty fancy. They wear a suit to work, they do. Perry Mason was on TV. I could do that thing in front of the courtroom. And I had no idea. I had a professor, thank goodness, in my senior year, asked me what I was going to do. And I was saying, well, I got into Villanova and Boston College. I got into these law schools. I think that's what I'm going to do. And he begged me not to go to law school. He said, I've seen you in class a couple years. You're going to make a horrible lawyer. You're way too ADD for contracts. And he said, Columbia has a new program called the JD MBA. They had just announced it, and it was a 4-year legal degree and business MBA. He said, please do me a favor. Promise me you'll at least entertain that. And I did. I applied. A, I didn't think I ever would get into an Ivy League. B, I didn't think I could ever afford to go to an Ivy League. by some miracle, they let me in. The business school let me in first. The law school waitlisted me. So I started it in reverse in the business school. Never looked back.
Wow. From a 3-room shack to Columbia.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one of my favorite stories, I was graduating. Ken, I told you I've been blessed my whole life with wonderful mentors, things that happen to me. I mean, look what I just did this morning, right?
I know.
I know. I mean, who gets to do that? So
Nobody.
I know.
Let's just be clear. Nobody.
Seriously.
Like,
I think this. Maybe it's because I was born on St. Patrick's Day. Maybe that's
it. Wow.
So one of my best friends in graduate school was a kid named Mark Weil. He and I are still close. Love the guy. His dad and mom took care of me, took me under their wing. Well, you may have heard the name Sandy Weil.
Yep.
Former chairman of Citibank, did amazing things in the financial world. Well, here I am at graduation, and Joan used to cook me chicken soup when I was sick. They took me under their wing and really mentored me, helped me learn how to dress. I had no idea what a business suit was. I literally was going to interviews with this powder blue suit things. But I look over at graduation. Here's my brother, the truck driver, who parked his big rig on 116th Street. Comes to the reception. Wow. I look up. Here's Sandy chatting with my brother. My brother's got cowboy boots on, a cowboy hat on. He's got a leisure suit on, I think. Sandy's in a business suit, looking like, an investment banker.
Yeah.
And I said, I went over after. I said, Sandy, what in the world were you talking about with my brother? And he said, transportation industry. It was awesome. But
oh my God.
But it's true, because Sandy came from nothing. My brother didn't know it was unusual to be talking to one of the foremost financial guys in the world, and he didn't care. He didn't care. And it was a beautiful melding of rich and poor coming together. But what was more important is they were sharing knowledge. My brother's a truck driver. Sandy wanted to know about the trucking industry. They had a robust conversation, in an environment that was kind of mind-boggling, that you wouldn't think would be possible.
That is one of the things that I love about you. You just to be clear, I mean, I'm not an idiot. You told me what kind of jet you have. I Googled it. I know the price tag on those things. They're not cheap. You've hit these super high levels of success in life in your career, and you don't look down your nose at anybody.
I can't.
I love that
because I could go back. I mean,
right.
I know that I'm one bad deal away from a 3-room shack, No, I don't.
It'd be hard. It'd be probably pretty hard for you to fall that far, but
maybe, but it does. There's a sense. I do believe it's an advantage. Again, if you think about adversity, poverty, all of these things.
Yeah.
If you can find your way to the other side, to me, it's almost a badge of honor. It's like, yeah, I was there, and it's fine. I survived that, and by the way, I know those people. They're my people. Yeah. And my brothers and sisters are lead very simple lives. And there's a really interesting thing. I look at my brothers and sisters, and I say, gee, I wish they had more, but here's what they are. They're happy. They are very happy people. What they don't have, that I do have, is freedom.
Yeah.
I can do anything I want. I can go anywhere in the world I want. I don't worry about bills. I don't worry about normal people things.
Right.
And they don't have the freedom to do that. And that's the only difference. They're perfectly happy. They don't have money. I can't jump in their own jet, but they are quite happy in their life that they have. I just wish they had more freedom, which comes from knowledge and education. They didn't have the privilege of going to college and then to graduate school and doing the things I did.
Well, but I agree it comes from that, but it also, I'm going to say yes, and I think you'll agree, because there's a lot of extremely educated morons that don't have freedom, and I'm talking PhDs that don't have freedom, and so it does come from that. But you also, at some point, you talked about when you worked at McDonald's at 16. That's a huge leap to go from the burger flipper at McDonald's to the CEO of Blockbuster Video or 7-Eleven. So there's a lot of massive action that you took in there as well.
A lot of action, a lot of hard work. Yeah,
yes,
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But, and like anything else, a little bit of luck here and there, right timing.
Yeah.
My 7-Eleven timing was fabulous. We ended up out of bankruptcy with a terrific run, 10 years of improved same-store sales and a 10x increase in our shareholder value in the last 5 years while I was CEO.
Wow.
Blockbuster, my timing could have been better. I took it over in 2007, just as the financial markets were about to collapse. But it happened.
Let's go there. First off, there's so much, and I'm sure everybody watching, there is so much nostalgia around for me for the name Block. I think I probably owe about $7 million in late fees still. I'm kidding.
You're absolved.
Yes.
Today.
Thank you. But I'll never forget, like every Friday night going and walking the aisles at Blockbuster and buying the popcorn and the and renting a movie. I mean, that was a thing, and people don't do that anymore. And so talk about when you made that leap and how did it happen? Did you go in for an interview? How did that happen? How does that happen where you take over Blockbuster Video as the freaking CEO? That's unbelievable.
I had, as I mentioned, I had a pretty good run. It was 21 years at 7-Eleven. That's a long time.
Jeez.
And a very good run when we.
Oh, it was 7-Eleven first.
Oh yeah, 7-Eleven first.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I got that backwards. My bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot, I mean, literally sat in every chair at 7-Eleven, from running the gasoline division to strategic planning to chief financial officer, chief operating officer, ultimately CEO. Sat in virtually every job.
Wow.
Yeah, fabulous experience. But I recognize the power of data and technology to help transform businesses. I was blessed with timing. When I first took my first job was just as PCs were coming out. I'm sitting there doing analysis with a PC when other people would take weeks with a spreadsheet.
Yep.
I looked like a genius. I wasn't. I was just using new technology and using data, which was not available to everybody back at the time. So my timing was perfect. I was able to bring data to the equation at 7-Eleven. We were able to use that data to help improve the company's performance. I recognized the power of data, the power of technology. After we sold 7-Eleven, I stepped back. I was still pretty young. I said, where else could I deploy this knowledge that I've got? I've got this wealth of knowledge about technology and how to use it to transform a business. And I looked at Radio Shack. I looked at Blockbuster as two potential opportunities. And the vision originally, and this sounds totally crazy, but Apple had just come up with a brand new kind of retail with a Genius Bar.
Yep.
And they were integrating hardware and software. Yep. I looked at Radio Shack. I said they sell more cell phones than anybody else in the world, which they did at the time. Blockbuster, they've got content. What if every one of those cell phones could be sold with free movies inside? And we could then stream directly, upload to your TV. Now, I knew that would take a few years, but to bring those two companies together and to put a person in each store that was like a little mini Genius Bar that could help you integrate your BlackBerry with your HP computer, with your Sony TV.
Yep.
But that's all Apple was doing. They were simplifying. They were making it convenient to access your favorite media with hardware and software coming together, and somebody to help you do it. So that was the original vision. So I was out selling both a Blockbuster deck and a Radio Shack deck in my briefcase, talking to different investors about would you support a buyout, because I knew this should have been done as a private company. In a public company, turnarounds like that, I lived it at 7-Eleven, very difficult. I thought, partner with private equity, take one of these private, turn it around, improve the cash flow, acquire the other or something like that, so you can bring this hardware and software alternatives together and then sell convenient access to media entertainment. It's not that big a leap from what I was doing at 7-Eleven.
Right.
It's about convenience.
Yep.
So that was the original plan. Now, I was in one of those investor meetings, and a guy says, you got to tell this to Carl Icahn. He's that big investor of Blockbuster. He picks up the phone. 20 minutes later, I'm in Carl's office. Carl says, who the hell are you?
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. I've heard he's a bit rough around the edges.
Oh, I love him. He is larger than life, big character. But he knows his stuff. Now, very different style from mine. Yeah. I don't like, I like to do things a little more delicately. He likes to just take it right to him, you know. Right. But yeah, so he talked me into my big mistake. He talked me into joining the company. I tried to convince him we should take it private. He said, no, public, private. I'm the financial guy. You're the operating guy. Trust me. Let's just go. We went forward. We were doing great. We doubled EBITDA. We tripled net income the first 12 months. We bought a streaming video company. We had a huge advantage relative to Netflix because we had something called total access, where we had stores, we had DVDs by mail, we had streaming, we had kiosks, we had everything. But then Lehman Brothers collapsed in September of 2008.
Yep.
We had $1 billion of debt. Had I refinanced it in 2007, as I wanted to do, we never would have missed a beat. Unfortunately, I didn't. A third of that debt was due in 2009. Change, right?
Wow.
It happens. It happens.
So, everybody talks, I told you this, we've talked about this before. Every network marketing company in the world, you're sitting there listening to the guy on stage going, this is the opportunity for you. You got to get it. Don't be like Blockbuster. They did with Netflix.
They could have bought him for $50 million.
Yeah, that's the number
too.
He's
an idiot. He's a knucklehead. He should have bought him. Don't take advice from him.
Right. So tell the story. What happened with the Netflix deal?
I first of all, I wasn't there yet.
Oh, that's right. That's
2007.
Yeah, that's right.
I do understand it did happen, but it was the year 2000. Now, Ken, that's 23 years ago. It's like saying, well, you idiot, why didn't you buy Google when it was like $20 a share? You know?
So in 2000, we were still using dial-up.
Yeah, with the noise.
The streaming wasn't even a thing.
No, they had just come up with the idea for DVDs by mail. Blockbuster looked at it and said, well, we've already got warehouses. We've already got shipping capability. We've already got the inventory. We can do that. We don't need to buy you to do DVDs by mail.
Right.
Now, dialing forward is easy, but even on the digital streaming side, Netflix model was old movies. That was all they would ever have the rights to, unless they started creating their own content, which is why they did ultimately.
Right. Yep.
Blockbuster had a relationship with the studios. When we bought MovieLink, they had 3,000 new releases digitized. So we had a far superior product opportunity in streaming via the MovieLink platform with new releases. And we had a shot at tying up exclusively all of the old long tail content. Now, I did blink on that. I took it to my board. My board said no. I could have fought for it harder, but it was a $100 million commitment in 2007.
Wow.
That we didn't know, as you said, how long it would take to monetize streaming video. So to tie up $100 million a year for the uncertain cash flow stream was a bit of a stretch. So I couldn't fault my board by turning that down. When we turned it down, Reed Hastings, if he was here on the line, would say, because that was when they bought it non-exclusively, signed up non-exclusively for the digital content. Still, the old movies, we still had the new stuff.
Yep.
But they were able to then start streaming the older movies. So
yeah.
Bottom line is, no, I wasn't the guy that turned down Netflix. By the time I got there in 2007, their market cap was $1.7 billion. Jeez. So we even though I talked to Reed about, could we do something? Could we come together? You guys do the digital, we'll do the physical, we'll come together, share brand. Their market cap was so out of sight already by then. And we were struggling because we had $1 billion of debt. They had no debt.
So it was there were just too many circumstances beyond anyone's control, really, with the collapse of the financial markets and $1 billion in debt. $1 billion in debt. Like, I can't even imagine waking up and looking at and going, wow, we're $1 billion in debt. Like,
yeah. It happened to be before, as I mentioned. 7-Eleven had $4 billion at 17% interest.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but think about the timing. Again, timing. We're in one of those right now. Now it looks like we're coming out of it, but interest rates 6 months ago, 9 months ago were what, 3%.
Yep.
Some people signed up. Some people borrowed a lot of money at 3% in flexible notes. They're paying now 8, 9.
Yep.
Big change. They have to manage cash flow. The learnings from Blockbuster are very valuable. So I lived in my career through 3 of those big ones. Now, 87 was when 7-Eleven did an LBO, loaded up with $4 billion of debt. It was supposed to be debt at about 8%. It ended up at 16 or 17%.
Jeez.
Again, it happened in 2007 when the market collapsed. Lehman Brothers fell. Blockbuster's debt was about 6%. I was able to refinance part of that $1 billion, a couple $100 million of it at 12. So the challenges of managing cash flow through turbulent times is a very important lesson there. People shouldn't just gloss over the Blockbuster story. They should dig in and see that during times of crisis, managing day in, day out cash flow and working that debt down is critically important.
At 17% interest, that's tough to do.
Oh, yeah. Well, it put 7-Eleven into a restructuring in 1991. Same as what happened to Blockbuster.
But you pulled it out. Pulled it out.
Oh yeah.
And that's amazing. And there was a time, quite frankly, I probably wouldn't have stepped foot in a 7-Eleven store. And now here on Preston Road where I live in North Dallas, there's a 7-Eleven every 3 miles, and they're gorgeous. They're
getting
beautiful.
better. Yeah, they've got some work to do. There's still some legacy stores out there that need some dusting up, but they're getting better. And I encourage you to take a look at the stores in Asia. My world-class model, when I started to partner with our Japanese licensee, who ultimately bought the company, they are selling fresh sushi in 7-Eleven stores. That's restaurant quality. That's as good as any restaurant in the United States.
Wow.
Fresh sushi delivered 3 and 4 times a day to every store at 7-Eleven, and they're on every other block. People in Japan literally eat 3 meals a day. Young people especially, they'll eat 3 meals a day at 7-Eleven in a smaller store. It's about 1,000 square feet. It's incredible.
Wow.
They are world-class retailers.
A buddy of mine's on here watching, Nick. He said, what's he think about Buc-ee's? What do you think about Buc-ee's? I love Buc-ee's.
I love Buc-ee's. I was one of those guys. I was a doubter. I was like, there's no way in hell they can't make that thing work. All those gas pumps, they're nuts. They're just crazy. That'll never work. The store's as big as a Walmart. They're calling it a convenience store. Or bigger. That can't work. Yeah, but you go in there and it is awesome. The bathrooms are clean. The food is fabulous. I've gotten to know one of the owners really well, and I have huge respect for him. we have a beer every once in a while and talk about the future and what's going to happen, to the industry. But I think they've nailed it because they're on these interstate properties. Even when EVs come, they're going to need a place to stop on the interstate. Inner city, maybe, recharging. I don't know. I don't know what will happen to gas locations inside the city. I had a Tesla for a while. I never used a charger. But if you're going to go to grandma's house, Buc-ee's is going to be a perfect place for people to stop on the way, do a quick charge, grab some of their fabulous beef jerky. And I mean, it's fun.
Texans probably hate me for this statement, but I think Buc-ee's has the best barbecue brisket in the state. And I've eaten a lot of barbecue since I moved here.
They're good. Well, the owners are Texans. They weren't going to put out bad barbecue. I mean, those guys are serious about their food. They love it. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
So Jim, you've done all of these amazing things. You have all these accolades. You've now written a book, and I know you have a copy of it there. I need to get a copy of that book. But let's talk about here, hold that up so everybody can see it. Education is Freedom. And it comes out in 5 days?
Yeah, February 27th. Yeah, available now, online pre-order. And they're selling pretty good. So I do recommend people get in line and get an order placed for it because thankfully, in fact, I just saw we were number 3 on Amazon's bestseller list for the category democracy. I don't know how I got in that category, but
wow. Education is Freedom. The future is in your hands by James W. Keyes. So Jim, talk about, number one, why I didn't go to college, but I think I told you, I remember being 20 years old, 21 years old, and I got into sales and I realized I was a complete moron, didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground. And I'm like, okay, I got to find the answers. I think they're in books. And I heard Brian Tracy talk about that. And so I just started reading and you can see behind me, those are real. And I've read them all. And I'm obsessed with reading. So talk about, number one, why did you write this book? And what's your goal with this whole thing?
My goal is very simple. I believe so strongly in the opportunity for anyone out there, since I was a living example of one of those kids that would have just given up and said, it's not college, not for me. I can't ever make anything of myself. That's what people told me. I had a guidance counselor tell me I shouldn't even think about going to college.
Wow.
And, so my message to everybody is learn, don't stop learning. Even if you do go to college, it's a license to learn. What you discovered, Ken, is read. Warren Buffett reads like 9 books a week or something like that. And there's a common theme with successful people, whether they went to college or not, their ability to continue to learn throughout their life helps them differentiate themselves.
Yep.
Now, I do want to, speak to this, and what another really important message here, you took the future in your own hands.
Yes.
You said, I've got this. I'm going to learn. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And you took it in your own hands. There is no excuse today. You found your knowledge in those books. But today, there's more right here than I ever had access to growing up with a set of borrowed encyclopedias.
Same.
There's unlimited, right? Unlimited opportunity for people to learn. So the future is in your hands. Even if your school system is broken, if you can't afford college, if you can't afford, or you think you can't afford college, if you don't think you can succeed, that's nonsense, because the power is right there to be able to learn. But let me talk about this question of college, because I'm so glad you're an example. You're an outlier. You're like a Michael Jordan. There's a lot of people that say, I'm going to go be a professional basketball player.
Right.
And they're not Michael Jordan. So they weren't successful, or they weren't even good enough to get into the NBA. And then when they put all their chips in that bucket, what do they have without an education? What we're in now is a bubble. We're in a little bubble, and it's a dangerous bubble because you can make a lot of money. I fly an airplane. There's a huge shortage of pilots. You can go out and make $100,000 being a pilot.
Yep.
But I've got to tell you, even though I love flying, but I would not want to do it as a career because it gets to be very routine after a while. And I would rather encourage someone, get a degree. You want to go fly for the airlines, fine, but get the degree first. Then, if you get bored with the airlines at some point, you have something to fall back on. You can go work for the airline. Maybe you could, in a different capacity, maybe you could buy a couple of airplanes and start up your own charter operation.
Yep.
But the opportunity is really what's there. So I'm going to give you really quickly 3 reasons to go to school for those people out there listening who say it's not important. There is a narrative now that says it's not important. Here's the 3 reasons. Number 1, there is today, even though technology, and I'm a big believer in technology, there's no measurement system today for knowledge that can replace the criteria of a college degree or graduate school degree. It will happen 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, that there'll be some way to measure how much someone knows. But today, if you're going to apply for a job, you're going to apply for a loan for your business.
Yep.
At some point, somebody's going to say, where'd you go to school?
Yep.
And until that changes, that degree is going to be more important. The second reason is that the school's going to force you something you probably did naturally, worked with other people, collaborated with other people. School kind of is that environment where you're forced into a world where people don't look like you, act like you, and you learn to collaborate. You learn to work with others. It's a very important element, and you have a breadth of learning that most of us don't have the discipline. I would never study philosophy on my own. It's just
Right.
kidding me. But
Right.
having been in school, I'm so glad I did, because there's a richness to that learning that's helpful. Third thing, is it affordable? In today's dollars, my degree would have been $50,000 a year. I was making $1.25, $1.50 an hour. Yeah, it was intimidating then, it's intimidating now. But here's how no one is looking at it today. Even if it's $80,000 a year to go to Harvard, there's no business investment that you would ever make where you make the cash down today investment based on today's earnings stream. You do a net present value of future earnings stream and you discount it back to what's that worth today.
Right.
No one does that for their education, but you should. Your college education is just like any other investment, but here's the kicker. It pays dividends, and it pays dividends for the rest of your life. So that's my pitch.
I love it. And I'm not opposed to, I think that if somebody's going to college, and you correct me if you feel different. I'm open to conversation, but I think that if they're just going to go, get a business degree to clock in and clock out and do, I don't know that I don't understand that mindset, quite frankly. Like,
Yeah.
going to work for the man or whatever. I just don't understand that. It
Well,
doesn't,
that's because you're an entrepreneur.
right.
Right? You
Right.
couldn't do that.
Right.
You would shoot me. I can't go do that.
I'm
Clock
a
in, clock
horrible
out.
employee. You would have
Yeah.
fired me. You would have fired me.
No.
Get out of here.
Yeah, but it's there's no one size fits all for everyone. The key, as you demonstrated, you don't just say, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. You learn. You
Yes.
learn, because
Yes.
everything you do, whether you're going to be an entrepreneur, whether you're going to be a professional golfer. I was at the Masters one day at night having a beer, and out comes Tiger on a Saturday night, and he was at the range. That's the kind of commitment to continued learning that makes you a champion. And it's the same if you're an entrepreneur or even if you're a student. It's that commitment, not just to put in the time, but to actually be serious about learning your craft.
I've interviewed 550 some odd celebrities and entrepreneurs and CEOs, and I think, and I have a lot of viewers, and I sometimes I go, why do people watch my show? And I think that the one thing that we all are looking for is hope. I really think that we're looking for hope. And so my question for you would be, what do you think is, because you've mentioned freedom. Your book title has freedom in it, right? And so what is it that's stopping people in life from having it all? And I'm talking about, look, I've been homeless and broke as an adult, and I've been wealthy, and wealthy is way better. Now, I've not been wealthy enough to buy a jet yet, but I'm working on it. But like, what do you think stops people, the masses, from experiencing all of it? The freedom, the financial, the joy, the happiness. I see, like, I posted a video that you sent me of you and Charlie Duke earlier on the tarmac there at Nassau, and I'm like, the happiness and joy that's in your face and in his face and in your voice and everything. What is it that's stopping people from having it all, Jim?
I got it right here. I got it in the book. I was turning to the page as you were asking me, because I truly believe that there is a solution. But what stops people, I don't know if you can read this, but is, I've got right at the top of the page.
Fear, anger.
Fear. So here's what happens.
Okay.
And you see it everywhere in society today. Fear is the lowest common denominator. Politicians use it. Marketers use it. They're going to come get you. They're going to take something from you.
Yep.
They're going to hurt you. The bad guys are coming. It's fear, and it works. It's human nature. Our caveman instinct to fight or flight is still there, and it gets lit up. Now, that fear is the single biggest obstacle to an individual's success, because we start scaring ourselves. Well, you're not really smart enough anyway. Imposter syndrome. You're not good enough for that. They're going to find out you're a fraud. Blah, blah, blah. Fear. So what happens when you're afraid? When you're afraid, when you're a kid at night and it's dark, you turn on the light, or mom comes in, turns on the light, and then you realize there's no monster under the bed.
Right.
I know it sounds crazy simple, but that's all fear is. So what's the antidote to fear? Light. When you're a kid, what's the antidote to fear beyond just turning on the light? Well, the light represents knowledge. So if you can replace fear and ignorance, which then my favorite line from Star Wars is Yoda says, ignorance leads to fear, fear leads to anger, anger leads to violence. He's actually quoting an ancient Greek philosopher when he says that. But if you can replace ignorance with knowledge, then you replace fear with hope or understanding. You replace anger with happiness, positivity, and you replace violence with peace. And honestly, Ken, I know it sounds trite, but that's what education is freedom. That's what I'm trying to communicate in this book. Folks, we got to stop being afraid. We're afraid of everything. And the answer to fear is knowledge, critical thinking, curiosity, ask why. Don't just take at face value what people are telling you. There's really nothing, as FDR said in his inauguration speech, famously, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Yeah. So true, man. It's so true. I'm going to put your website up as a scrolling ticker here at the bottom. I really want everybody watching to go to your website, and you can click on a link right there. It takes you to Amazon. Is that correct?
Yeah, Amazon. It's also available at Target and Walmart and other places, but Amazon is the easiest to link to. I've got a link right on my at J Keys author.
Oh, okay. Well, jameswkeys.com is
that works too. That'll go to
and
the website.
All of your social media is at the bottom. So, and if you guys aren't watching Jim on TikTok, dude, you're killing it, man. I love it.
It's fun. I found the secret. I've hired a 22-year-old, and she's a genius. She's just like, I went from zero TikTok. I had none, like maybe 5.
2 months, 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, 2 or 3 months ago.
I know. I remember
10,
the
12,000
conversation.
now. Yeah, I got one video that I've got 26 million views on.
That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a whole new world for me, but I'm having fun with it.
Jim, you are a gentleman and a scholar, and I mean, I could talk to you all day. I know you've got some NASA things to do.
I'm gonna go watch a moon landing.
I know, it's incredible, man. That's just incredible. Hopefully, you're allowed to video some of that.
Oh yeah,
that would be. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what else is coming. You and I are doing an Amazon Live next week over on Amazon.
Yeah, launch day.
I'm excited on your launch day. That's right. I'm excited for that, and excited that Mark Victor Hansen. Thank you, Mark and Crystal, for introducing Jim and I. And Jim, thank you, man. You're
soup for the soul. Mark's a great guy.
He is unbelievable, and he knows everybody.
He
like
does.
I thought I knew everybody. He knows everybody.
He does. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, and hopefully there's something. Grant Cardone, if you're watching, you need to get Jim over and interview him, man. This guy's incredible. So, Jim, thank you. I'm going to end the live stream, but if you'll hang on for me real quick. Everybody make sure you go to jameswkeys.com, get a copy of this book. It's going to change your life, change the trajectory. If you're on a bad trajectory, if you're on a good trajectory, it's just going to help you continue to climb and go up. So, Jim, thank you so much for coming on today, man. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ken. I wish everybody good luck and relentless positivity.
Amen. Thanks. You, Jim.